So you're racing on a monitor, or maybe you upgraded your PC, or maybe you're just getting into iRacing now and you're looking for some equipment to buy. So we're going to look at the Oculus Quest 2 in 2022. Is it worth it for you? Let's just roll right into it. Guys, what is up? So I've been getting a lot of questions about the Quest 2. I've done some videos in the past, but I figured let's do a little bit more of a deep dive into it. Talk about the pros, the cons, who's it's for, what kind of racing you're gonna get out of it in iRacing, and you know, is it an enjoyable experience? By the way, you're going to be watching a race I did recently. I always preach, don't go back to rookie mode. If you get out of rookie, don't ever go back to rookie mode. But against my advice, this race actually pulled me in. It was street stock cars at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and I just couldn't keep my hands off the wheel to get into this race. So that's what you're going to be watching now. I did get the pole in this race, so I started out first, but it's rookie, so you'll obviously see what happens. But yeah, stay out of rookie if you get out. But anyway, Quest 2, let's talk about it. VR headset, is it worth it? Let's talk about who it's for, what you need to run it. Let's talk about VR in general, and we're going to talk about some of the cons with the VR headset that you might not be aware of. First, just to let you know, I am an average racer. You don't need to be a professional sim racer. I am just an okay racer. I got the pole in this race because Charlotte just happens to be a track I'm better at. Anyway, at any level, you can hop into this with a VR headset or any other equipment that you want. I started with a VR headset. I started out with the regular Oculus. I went to the Oculus Rift S, and then I went to an Oculus Quest 2. And putting a headset on today, as opposed to like 2 years ago, it still has the same exciting effect that it had back then. It's only better now because the Quest 2 quality is so much better than those other two headsets. So it even makes me more excited to hop into racing in a VR headset. So we're going to talk about systems. We're going to talk about what you need to run it, and then we'll cover some of the negatives. But first, I am running, just so you know, I am running this on an RTX 3080. I have an Intel i7 10th gen. So I am pushing a pretty powerful PC. So I have no issues in running this headset. Now, the Quest 2 can run at 72 hertz, 80 hertz, 90 hertz, or 120 hertz. Now, depending on the setting that you're going to use is obviously going to be, one, it's going to be dependent on your system that you're running. And just know iRacing is very heavy in your actual computer processor. So it definitely pushes your processor as well as your GPU. And this is where I think a lot of people are shocked. I run my headset in iRacing at 72 hertz. I run it at the full resolution of 5408 by 2736. I have no issues running at this resolution. I find the frames super smooth. I've ran it at 80. I've ran it at 90. I feel, for me personally, I don't feel like dropping down the graphics to run it at 80 or 90 is worth it for me. I'd rather see everything turned up within iRacing, and I'll show you the settings that I run in iRacing. All right, so let's take a look. So the display options up here, this is just, I also have it hooked up to a TV. So this is the resolution that it's actually playing on the TV and the frames. That is just the TV that it's actually playing like a mirror. This doesn't affect the headset or doesn't pull any power from everything running. This is where you're actually pulling all your settings for iRacing. And you can see sky cloud is one thing I just put to medium. The sky and the cloud you can see out there, it looks totally fine at medium. I don't have any reason to pump that up and waste resources to it. But everything else, high detail, this is the highest settings for all this. High crowds on medium. I don't need I have the crowds. It looks like a crowd. I don't need like perfect 3D rendered characters in the stands. There's enough of a crowd to put on medium. Can I pump it higher? Sure. Is it worth it? Probably not. Everything else, high, full res particles. I have everything's pumped up. Now, obviously, your frame rate is going to be dependent on what you set your headset to. So it's not gonna, if you put no limit here, it's not gonna just run anywhere on your headset. It's gonna be your headset dependent on your headset. All your settings in here, all high. Everything is on. Everything's pumped up. High detail, shader quality. I have sharpening on. Sharpening makes such a huge difference in iRacing, especially when you turn that on in a VR headset. Sharpening is so important. It's like night and day. So if you can pump on sharpening, definitely put that on. I have my high car textures on. So I use a virtual mirror. I find it to be the best mirror and makes racing all different cars the easiest. I think once you turn on other, like the real mirrors of a car, it makes things a lot, I think it makes driving a lot harder. And you know, I've asked a question to other people that use VR headsets, and a lot of people actually prefer using a virtual mirror and not the actual mirrors of the different cars. I do have like high quality trees off, so when you're racing at a track with a lot of trees on a lot of like road course stuff, that is pretty high GPU demanding, so it's not worth it to really pump up the quality of the trees. So that's something I would knock down. One thing, if you're running a high system, and this is another thing that I highly recommend if you have a powerful system to do, is you want to hop into your Oculus debug tool. And the way that you actually get there is you go to your C drive, you go to program files, Oculus support, Oculus diagnostics, and then open the Oculus debug tool. The setting you want to change, and this is only if you're running a high powered system. Do not try to raise this up if you're not running a powerful system. It will definitely make your frames crawl. But encode bitrate anywhere from like 250 to 500. This will make things a lot sharper. You're raising your bitrate of your quality that's coming into your headset. And if I don't know if you've ever like rendered a video when you use a low bitrate to a high bitrate, you know, the quality and the clarity definitely get improved a lot, and it's actually very noticeable in a headset. So if you have a powerful PC, definitely pump this up. Now we're running wired, right? We're running wired. I do not recommend running. The Oculus Quest 2 can run wirelessly. I do not recommend if you are doing sim racing. There is absolutely no reason that I can find that you would need to do it wirelessly, but definitely wired. Use a link cable. I use a third-party cable that I got off of Amazon, and it works 100% fine. It's a really actually long-distance cable. But if you are someone who uses your Quest 2 to play games outside of iRacing and sim racing and you use it wirelessly, make sure you turn this back down to 0. If you leave this at 500, I know back when when Oculus officially supported their wireless mode to PC, and when I'm saying wireless, I'm saying wireless playing PC VR wirelessly to your headset. Turn this back down to 0. Otherwise, you're going to have issues, just so you know, if you try to run it wirelessly with this number pumped up. So big improvement in visual quality if you pump that up. Another thing you're going to want to do in iRacing is this is a setting you're going to want to turn on so you can actually see how your system's performing with the settings that you're using. Where you want to go is you want to go into your PC, go to your documents, go to iRacing, and go to your render dx11.ini file. You want to open that up in Notepad. So right click, open it up in Notepad, find the option that says fully wait for sync and set that to 0. And if you don't set this to 0, and I think the default is 1, and I'm pretty sure this is the setting, and if this is not the setting that's going to show you what I'm going to show you next, leave it in the comments and I'll try to hunt down the correct setting, because it's so hard. Every time I needed to change this, it's so hard for me to remember what it was and to find the answer what it was. But I think this is the actual setting that's going to do this. Your R is going to be for your processor, your G is going to be for your GPU, and you want this number to be under 12. So if you're running under 12, you're running pretty good. So what I'm doing here is, don't forget, I'm also screen recording while I'm running in VR with all these settings pumped up, and I'm still running at a really good, I'm running at a solid 71. So 71 frames per second is 72 hertz. So it'll lock in at 71. That's just the normal setting that it does. So if you didn't change that setting that I showed you before, this is just going to lock to 12. It's not going to actually show you the true syncing of this setting. Let's talk about some of the negatives, why you know, and this is VR versus single monitor, right? 100%, I would pick VR any time of day over a single monitor. Your field of view is so important. You get about 110 degrees field of view on an Oculus Quest 2 on your monitor. You can't see on the sides view. Depending on how close you sit to your monitor, you know, you need to set your field of view correctly. A lot of people don't have that set correctly, but you also can't turn your head. So you put a button on your steering wheel to look right, look left, and you can't see when you're racing side by side with a car. You can't really tell how close you are if they're pulling up, you know, away from you. If you have room to move up, you can't really see that if you're racing in a monitor. Now, if you're going to go with a triple monitor setup, that's a whole nother story. It also requires more room. Right now, I can actually, you know, break my setup down. I put my wheel away. I put my headset away. Triple monitor setup, you're going to need the room for it. You're going to have a permanent spot for it. And it's a whole nother setup. It's good. I've never raced a triple monitor setup, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's not going to be as immersive as a VR headset. I can't imagine it ever being, unless you like have a $50,000 setup and you feel like you're actually in a car and your windows are the actual like monitors and you feel like you're in a car. I think that's the only way you can actually feel immersed. So some of the negatives now, and it's not really many, and it's nothing that would turn me away from using a VR headset, but if you like to type and you like to message people, you know, you have a VR headset on, you're not going to be able to type people and message people and, you know, put things in the chat. That's one thing you're not going to be able to do. Also, just having a headset on, some people might find it uncomfortable after a couple hours. Me personally, I actually find the Quest 2 to be really, really comfortable. I'm using the stock strap that it comes with. If you set the stock strap that it comes with correctly, the headset is super, super comfortable. You can actually make it pull all the weight where it's not like pushing down on your face. I think a lot of people set it on their face incorrectly, and that's why it's uncomfortable for them. Another thing, if you're going to use a Quest 2, I always say I recommend going through iRacing's own app. Don't go through Steam. I know a lot of people do have issues going through Steam and setting up VR, and you have to jump through a lot of hoops. iRacing through its own app, not through Steam. I almost feel like it's a 1, 2, 3, no issues setup. Bam, you're in, you're racing, you're running. Some other negatives, you have a headset on, you want to take a drink or something, you're hot. Sometimes it's hard to find your drink. It's hard to, your headset might be in the way, but just little things like that. 100%, is the Oculus Quest 2 worth it? Yes. Do you need a powerful system? Yes. If you're running like an RTX, I think I initially ran my Quest 2 on my laptop, which had like an RTX 2060. And, I had to run it at a much lower resolution. I had to drop some settings down. It actually ran pretty decent with a lot of settings turned up, and it looked good. It looked fine. You can definitely run it with lower GPUs. So go on the Oculus or the I keep saying Oculus. It's actually the Meta Quest now. So go on the site. Make sure your GPU is supported by them. Make sure your CPU is supported by them. I'm not familiar with AMD processors, how well they run. I've always ran an Intel processor, so running an AMD processor might definitely be a little bit different and offer a different experience. But definitely go on the site, make sure your system is supported, and then I always recommend, if you're gonna pick up the headset, do it from a place where if it doesn't work well, you can return it or exchange it for something else, just to be on the safe side. Or if you have a friend that has a headset, borrow it, check it out, and see if it works for you with your system. But I can't imagine anyone ever putting it on and being like, wow, this isn't awesome. It's completely awesome. I also don't feel like, if you're using a VR headset, a lot of people, talk about getting dizzy and motion sickness. I don't feel that would happen in racing. If you're doing gaming and stuff like that, I can totally see it. But I think it's definitely a better experience with sim racing in a car, where you're not going to get that motion sickness that people do get that aren't familiar with VR. So that's another thing just to consider. Some people might get motion sickness, but I don't think it's a big deal like it would be if you are just doing regular gaming on your headset. Obviously, the Quest 2, you can use as a gaming headset on its own. You can take it away from your computer. It has its own processor in there, its own graphics processor in there, so you can play games in your Quest 2 outside of iRacing and outside of sim racing. You can do it wirelessly. You can also hook up wirelessly to your PC and play PC gaming wirelessly to your headset. So with PC or no PC. But to be honest with you, my headset doesn't get used outside of sim racing really much at all. I initially bought it for its own VR headset to game on, but it literally doesn't get gamed on except for sim racing. But, once in a while, I'll pick it up and maybe play a game. But it's really used for sim racing 99.9% of the time. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll definitely help you out. I'll answer it. But is the Quest 2 worth it? 100% yes. Will there be better headsets out there? Yes. Do you need them? No. Spend it on a processor, on a GPU if you need to upgrade your system over getting a better headset. Once you have a great system and you want to upgrade headsets after that, then that's fine. Also know the Oculus Quest 2 doesn't need any cameras set up in your room anywhere. It's all built into the headset. So some other headsets you actually have to put cameras around the room. So you'd have to stay in the same spot. You'd have to keep your setup in the same spot because your cameras would need to be set up outside of your headset. Where the Oculus Quest 2, the cameras are built in the headset. There's no external cameras at all, which is another great thing. I think I covered it all. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thumb up the video, subscribe. We'll be doing a lot more iRacing stuff and VR racing. And anything else you guys want to see, leave it in the comments. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and maybe I made your decision a little more easier. Thanks for watching, guys. Out of here. Peace.
P13, that's the end of the race.